Good morning and welcome to the Vision Alignment Show, where we all understand the importance of having our vision aligned with our core beliefs, our core values, our core strengths. I can't tell you how important that is. I'm going to also tell you about some shows that we have coming up here next week and actually today, but I'll leave that for the end. So come join us for that and stick around and learn more about what we're doing with vision alignment and how important that is. Because sometimes it's important for us to put on those blinders so we can stay focused on our vision. But at other times, it's important to take those blinders off so we can see the world around us and we can eliminate those blind spots. Somebody that knows a lot about vision and a lot about his core beliefs and his core strengths is our guest today. And that is none other than Ty Bennett. Hey, good morning, Ty.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you this morning?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Good. Thank you for joining us. I truly appreciate that. Ty, tell us, when is your first recollection of knowing your vision?
I think that's such a cool question. When you ask that, a couple of things come to mind. So yes, first recollection. I don't know if I can pinpoint a specific time, but I grew up in a home with two awesome parents. And I remember often them using the phrase, where much is given, much is required. And I always took that to mean that, I felt like I had been pretty blessed. I had good parents, I had a nice home, I had opportunities, and I wanted to make an impact. I don't know why, but at a young age that stuck with me. Like I had ambition and drive and wanted to go out and do things in the world. One specific thing that I remember I played soccer growing up, and our soccer club was asked to go and get signatures we were trying to bring the World Cup to the United States, which ended up happening, but they think they asked all the clubs like around the country to like start to build this petition, right? And they did this contest to see how many, signatures you could get. And the winning prize from our club was a signed poster of Pele, like probably the greatest soccer player that's ever played. Yeah. And I was like, I'm going to win, right? And so I knocked doors for days and just, had my little pitch, and I ended up doing thousands of signatures and won this signed poster of Pele. But there was just this ambition that I wanted to do stuff and wanted to go out and like push myself. And in high school, I was involved in a program called DECA, and it's a leadership and business program. And I was one of the leaders in that group. I was elected as the vice president for the state of Colorado, where I grew up. So I was one of the state officers. And as our state officer team was putting together the convention, our conference that year, one assignment that fell to me was choosing our motivational speaker. And so I didn't know what I was doing. I was, 17 years old, but I actually watched video after video of these different speakers. I was watching demo videos of speakers. I didn't know that's what it was called or what exactly I was doing. And these were, VHS at the time. And I chose this guy that I thought was funny, and he had a great message. And I was the guy who literally handed him a $2,500 check before he went on stage. And then he watched this guy just have these students in the palm of his hand. We laughed, we cried, we took notes. It was awesome. And that is my first I want to do that. Like that, it just stuck with me. That I thought it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen in the world. He got paid at that time, in my mind, a huge amount of money, and went and did something that was fantastic. And so I think my vision eventually evolved to, now as a full-time speaker for the last decade, that's what I do. But I think it started with that idea that where much is given, much is required. And I wanted to go and make an impact in the world.
Wow. If you want to hear more, stay right there. Great story, Ty. But before we go deeper into that, I want to encourage all of our listeners to share this video out with as many people as you can, because making this community larger is really what we're all about. We're helping to try to make sure that people know their vision, and they know their vision should be aligned with their core beliefs and their core values. So that's important. But also, if you would, put a picture in your timeline of you winking. Yes, I really mean winking. And just that wink right there. So when you wink, I want you to think, man, I wonder what makes me unique. Because if this guy, meaning me, knows what makes him unique, and it's not his eye, it's not my eye. What makes me unique is my willingness to share my story with other people in order to have a lasting impact on their lives. So if this guy knows what makes me unique, him unique, well, I wonder what makes me unique. So that's important. But also, if you have any questions about anything, please put them in the comments. Also, tell us where you're coming in from. Put in a hashtag live. If you're listening live, if you're listening on replay, put in a hashtag replay. All that to say thank you, and I appreciate you all being here. Ty, tell us more. My first question is, do you remember the speaker's name?
I don't. I need to find it. I know that's so sad. I totally should, but I just don't. I know he was Colorado based, and he spoke to high school students primarily. But yeah, I'm gonna have to go find him.
Yeah, absolutely. So next question is, what if you would? Can you tell us more about your story?
Sure. So, I mentioned I grew up in Colorado, and I grew up, pretty ambitious. I ended up going to school to study entrepreneurship. I wanted to own my own business. I thought that was a great path for me to go down. And as I was in school, my brother and I started a business on the side because I thought that was the point of studying entrepreneurship, right? And I was 21. My brother was 22 at the time. And, I'd love to tell you that business took off like a rocket, but it didn't. We had ups and downs of building that business. We're doing it on the side as we're going to school full time. And in the process of that first year, I ended up getting married, and just, lots of things, but we kept pushing and we kept building that business. And long story short of it, we built that business to over 20 million in annual revenue while still in our 20s. And as that business grew and it scaled, I found my role more and more was in speaking and training and developing our team and leadership development and sales training. And I just loved it. That's what I love doing, and I love speaking. And so I decided that I was going to pursue that. I wrote my first book. Actually, you can see it right behind my shoulder here, called The Power of Influence. And that came out in 2010. And I started speaking. And from there, I kind of never looked back. I fell in love with the process of being in front of groups and audiences and opportunities to share a message that I'll tell you what I love the very most is I love watching an audience come alive. I love those light bulb moments. I love seeing the reaction and knowing that they're going to put certain things into place. And so that's led me down a road. In the last 10 years, I've written 4 books. My 5th is in the works right now. And I've spoken all over the world for different audiences, and it's been the coolest adventure of my life. Outside of work, I'm married. I have 5 kids, so that keeps us extremely busy. And is awesome. My kids are really, really fun. They're 15 down to 8 months. And so we've got a big span. Yeah, it's been a fun process. Kind of, really, I think our vision evolves. I think, I think as a general principle, I wanted to make an impact in the world, right? And at first that was as an entrepreneur, and, continues to be. I still view myself as an entrepreneur in what I do. And, but that evolved to me saying, I want to be a speaker. And I still don't view myself as an author. I know I've written 4 books, almost 5, but that's not where my skill set naturally lies. It's in speaking. And so that's kind of been my pursuit for, most of my career.
So you with your book, I want to advertise that, or at least your website. What is that called?
My website's just my name, tybennett.com. And
Okay.
yeah, you can find, all my books, podcasts, blogs, all sorts of stuff on there.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Cool. So I will put that up here, and 2 N's and 2 T's.
Correct.
And we'll show it there. There we go.
Look at you.
TyBennett.com. So awesome. That's great. If you would go out to that website, look for Ty's book and any other information you want, please sign up for that. That would be phenomenal. And so we have some friends on here that we need to recognize. And there's our friend Jill Sullivan. Yes, awesome, very cool. She's coming in from Heber. Is it Heber City?
Heber, yeah. Not too far away from me. Yeah.
Ah, cool. She's a long-time listener and a good friend. So this is awesome. So good question, Jill. How do you keep work-life balance?
That, Jill, I don't know that there's an answer to that question. I don't claim to be an expert at all, but I've always liked I've liked the delineation between balance and harmony. What I mean by that is, when you think of balance, I think we think of perfectly weighted scales, right? So if we're trying to balance out our life, we have a certain amount of hours here and a certain amount of hours there. And the reality is it doesn't work that way. We're probably over proportional in one area than others. But harmony is something that resonates with me, and trying to find a way to make it all work. As I mentioned, I have 5 kids, and they're busy. And so, we have lots of stuff, and trying to balance that out. There's a lot of planning and adjusting of things that go into it. This last year has been extremely unique for me because I've been home more than I've ever been home in my life, and doing more virtual engagements. Live engagements are coming back, and travel is starting to happen and stuff again. And so it's a constant balance. My schedule is different than most. My weeks don't look the same from week to week. And so I'm my wife and I plan regularly and try and adjust and make things work. And I want to be involved with as much as I possibly can with my kids. And so it's a constant pursuit. And I mean that in the fact that it's never a done process, and some days are better than others. And some days I have to, say, I'm really sorry that I can't be part of this, because there's always some opportunity cost to one thing that you're doing to another, right? But for me, harmony is what I'm trying to find in, a whole complete life, as a father, husband, an entrepreneur, a speaker, all of those things.
Yeah. She likes that answer. That's
good.
Joe.
Thank you.
So what do you think the biggest factor in your success is?
That's a hard one. But maybe it's not just one thing, it's a couple things. One, I very much understand in the way that my drive works. I don't quit until it's done. Like there's not a I'm going to try kind of in me. And I know sometimes that's hard, like on my wife, because if I say I'm going to do something, she knows like I'm going to pursue it. And there's no half in, half out kind of approach in how I do things. But that ambition and that drive, I think, is extremely important. But part of that is that drive to constantly be better in the process. So for example, as a speaker, I'm very busy as a speaker. I've been very blessed and had lots of opportunities, but the pursuit of trying to get better and recording myself and listening to myself and going back and trying to tweak it and studying it and hiring coaches and trying to improve constantly, that never ends, because I look at it as a craft. And so I want to continue to get better. And I hope that next year, if I were to go back and watch videos of this year, I hope I'm embarrassed by them, because I've improved in dramatic ways. And so, yeah, I think it's, I believe that as we get better, our circumstances get better. And so it's something you have to keep pursuing, but it takes an extreme amount of work in whatever you're going to do, right? To pursue something and do it at a high level, it's something you have to go after aggressively.
Yeah, it's not easy, that's for sure. So our friend Lisa Hain has a question here. What is the best power of influence advice?
So, Lisa, thank you for that question. I'm going to go with one of the principles I teach in that book is to focus on being interested, not interesting.
Hmm.
I think it's really natural and easy to focus on being interesting, which is all about us. But being interested is about other people. It's placing other people's interests first. It's learning to ask questions and to listen. It's learning to build people up and to make it about them. And it takes in all sorts of factors. But principally, I believe that's what influence is based on. I think influence is all about the other person. Because if you think about it, Brian, if no one is listening to the show, you're not influencing anybody. If no one is following you as a leader, you're not actually a leader. Right. And so it has to be about them. It can't be about you because you don't exist without them anyway. And
Right.
so that principle of focusing on being interested, not interesting, is something that has served me extremely well. I've taught this idea to literally hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people, and it's been cool to see application of that. Like, for example, I ran into a guy who was in my audience 7+ years ago, and he said, "You're Ty Bennett, right?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "I have a sticker on my computer on my desk that says focus on being interested, not interesting, because every time I'm on the phone, that's visually a reminder to me of, okay, how do I want to approach this conversation?" And I think it's a very important principle to understand.
Huh. That gives me goosebumps. If somebody got something from my speech and they come up to me 7.5 years later, I mean, how did that make you feel?
Coolest thing, but I'll tell you one more story. So a couple of weeks ago, we were for spring break, we were at Disney World, and 2 different times. So my kids went to go buy popcorn, and I said, "Okay, just buy one popcorn, you can share it." And they came back with 2 popcorns, and I was like, "Guys," I said, "buy one popcorn," and they're like,
Hello.
"No, no, the lady gave us a free popcorn." And I was like, "Really?" And then later that day or the next day, I can't remember. My kids were on one ride and I got in line, and because of COVID protocols, they had to kind of wait at the front until I got up there to meet them. And
Mhm.
so they're just sitting with this worker. And when I got up to the front, the lady said, "You guys go in the fast pass line." And I was like, "Okay." And she goes, "You have the best kids I've ever met." And I was like, "Oh, that's awesome." So I was talking to my kids about it, and my daughter, who's 15, she goes, "Dad, it's just what you teach." And I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "To be interested, not interesting." We just like asked them about them and how their day was and about their job, and they gave us free popcorn and put us in the fast pass line. And I was like, "That is awesome." Because that's, it's just connecting with people. It's just being, present and genuine in how you approach people.
Yeah. So seeing your kids do that and other people 7 years ago, I mean, how does that make you feel when they come up with that?
That's the coolest part, right? I mean, it's and here's the truth. I don't think most of the time as speakers, or if you write a book, or if you put out a show like this, I don't think most of the time we get that loop to come back to where we get that feedback. It does sometimes, and it's really cool, right?
Yeah.
Or you get a book review, and you're like, "That's awesome." Like somebody's listening, somebody's actually
Yeah.
using this material and it's helping them. That's what you want. And so when it does come back and you get to kind of close that loop, there's a satisfaction in that for sure.
Hmm. Yeah, that's cool. So tell me, or tell us, I keep saying me, tell us, what does the next level of success look like for you?
It's I don't know what the next level for sure looks like. I mean, I want to continue to do what I'm doing as a speaker. I
You're
will
still young.
continue. Yeah, I mean, well, I turned 40 this year, so that feels old to me.
Whoa.
But I'm gonna try and keep this baby face as long as I can. Uh, but I've got a couple of new things, happening in some new projects, if you will. So a mutual friend of ours, Chad Hymas, and I started a new podcast that actually launched yesterday called the Relevant Speaker Podcast. So really helping people want to be in the speaking world, because we get that question all the time. People want to understand this, how to be a speaker, how to be booked as a speaker, that kind of thing. And so we're kind of starting this new project with a relevant speaker, which will be fun. I'm also, my kids are very involved in American Ninja Warrior, and I'm investing in, and we're building a ninja gym here in Utah with a partner. And so I've got some other things that, are in the works, and that's always fun. But, from a speaking standpoint, I want to continue what I'm doing. This is something that, for me, this something I can do for the rest of my life. I want to be able to be in front of audiences and share, and ideally make an impact, and be able to teach and inspire people. And so that won't change. That's something I want to continue to do.
No, that's great. There's got to be things you run up against and that have caused you to have concern or challenge. What are some of those obstacles that you have?
So this last year was a crazy weird year, right? For all of us. And when it first hit, it just, everything started to cancel and change and be put on hold. And, just looking at like my calendar just automatically was a totally different thing. And so, I think with all of us, when we face new experiences, there's challenge in, we have to be able to adjust and adapt. And so we figured out how to present virtually. That's something I'd maybe done once or twice, but not consistently, and so, building a virtual studio and being in a position to do that for audiences live and pre-recorded and just all the different ways. And, now done that hundreds of times over the last year, which has just been a unique experience, but it's also adjusted our business offering and model. I think virtual events will be here to stay. We'll speak live too, but continue to do virtual events for different people. And because of that, it's adjusted a little bit of my outlook on things, and, the amount of travel that I want to have with my family and those types of things too. So, that's been a challenge. It's interesting, the question before about work-life balance, because that's always a challenge. As much as I want to say that's my goal, there's many days that I fail at that, and weeks that we just feel like there's just too much on our plate. And, I sometimes that's me feeling like I'm not getting done what I need to professionally. And sometimes that's my wife and the kids feeling like I'm not there as much as I need to, like that's a constant thing. And, trying to find that. So there's challenge in that. There's challenge in deciding where to put my focus at certain times, and where I want to be spending the bulk of my time. And, lots of opportunities, which is a good thing, but also is sometimes a challenge in trying to balance that out. So, I think there's constantly challenge, but I also think that challenge pushes us. It makes us better. It helps us to adjust, as uncomfortable as that is in the process. Sometimes that's what's needed to take us to that next level.
Yeah, that's a great answer. I'm so glad to hear that I'm not alone with challenges.
Oh, no, that's a constant pursuit and constant thing. I think my personal belief is that this life is about growth. I think we're here to grow and to learn and to become better. And that only happens when we face challenge and we push ourselves. I think that's part of it, is not just running away from challenge, but being willing to embrace it and adapt and work through it.
Yeah. So you have a lot going on, and you seem to do so much on your own. That's just my my appearance, or the appearance you create for me anyways. Who sees your blind spots?
So sometimes it's hard to see your own, right? I try to, right, be aware. Right. But I have a couple of mechanisms in place. My wife probably being the number one, person who's going to help me with some of those things. But I have a team who works for me and with me that help me from a business standpoint to really see what we're missing and what I'm missing, or areas that I could take advantage of. And so we're in constant contact that way. I've also have some different mastermind groups that I'm a part of that are opportunities to have some of those deeper conversations and learn what's working, what's not working, and share some of the things that I'm working on or struggling with, and get advice from people, that I respect their opinion. And I'm involved in a couple of different ones, some that are, specifically with speakers. And then I'm involved in a mastermind group that's just successful entrepreneurs. And so, different perspectives coming into it. And so that's been helpful.
Interesting. Yeah, I found that there's so many people that you leverage those masterminds for a lot of goodness. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
So you seem to have, you seem to be very clear on what it is you're doing and how you're doing it. How do you maintain that clarity?
Well, clarity, I think, doesn't mean that things don't adapt, right? I mean, sometimes they do, and there's part of that. I think that clarity comes from competence in building, like, the research you put into it and the understanding of it. Before I ever jumped into speaking, as an example, I did a lot of research around the industry and really studied out what was working and what people were doing, and tried to get very clear on what it is, my approach, my business plan, if you will. And once I did that, was ready to jump in and kind of saw a clear vision in that. I also think that, one of the things that I've been blessed with is confidence, sometimes overconfidence, and sometimes that gets me in trouble. But, I definitely am an action-oriented person, and I'm going to move forward with purpose very clearly, when I decide to do something. And so, that I think that trying to understand and get clear requires, competence and confidence.
That's a great answer. So we have a few minutes, just a minute or so left here, and I can't believe how fast this time is going. It's blown by. But what do you do to recharge?
So a couple of things for me. Exercise is an important one. That's something that is a daily, activity for me, that I really enjoy, and it's a good reset. My wife and I try and carve out some time every day that we have certain things that we read, and ways that, we're going to connect and make sure we're on the same page. I think that's an important thing. And then we set out specific time, for a date each week, and for family time each week, the stuff that we're doing. So all of that, I think, is an important piece. Just one of the things that I love to do is play basketball. And, for almost a year with COVID, that, like, our group that we play at 5:30 in the morning got shut down. And so we just came back a couple weeks ago, and that's been awesome. The days that I can do that, to just, that's the sport that I enjoy, the most playing. And so I think for me, exercise, connection with family and friends, and then I carve out time for study. There's certain things that I read, like, from a spiritual nature, scriptures and things that are important to me. And then also, I'm constantly trying to listen to podcasts and read, different self-development books, and study in my areas of expertise where I'm trying to learn. And so, yeah, those things all, I think, are big pieces of it.
Yeah, this has been great, Ty. I really appreciate you being on. Great answers.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm going to let you go back to the green room, and I'm going to close out the show, but I'll come back and talk to you here in a little bit.
Okay.
All right, great. Thanks, Ty. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye. Wow, what a great show. Ty Bennett, really, he is so soft-spoken, but he is so confident in what he talks about. I mean, amazing. Just a great show. So I'm so thankful for having him on here today. But we have at 11:30, we have another show coming up with a Radical Vision for Disabilities. And that show is all about helping people to understand with disabilities, and sometimes their caregivers, to know what that person with the disabilities is going through. So stay tuned for that show at 11:30 with Greg Cini from the Worthington House. I'm sorry, the Kemper House in Worthington. So that'll be phenomenal. Next week, we have great shows coming up with Scott Leeper coming up on Monday. On Tuesday, we have Chuck Gallagher, another great speaker and another great videographer. And then on Friday, we have Sally Williams from the Ohio School for the Blind. That is going to be good. So stick around. We've got more great shows coming up. And if you ever have any questions, or if there's ever anything that I can do for you, by all means, let me know. And as always, keep one eye on the road. Bye.